Welcome to the JD Remedy. Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of the JD Remedy. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I am coming to you from a 5-day lockdown in Perth. Whoop whoop. Honestly, I don't really care. I think we've done the right thing. WA has always acted promptly and accordingly, hence why we have had no community transmitted cases in over 10 months. We still don't have any community spread or cases. We're just doing this as a precaution because one of the security guards at a quarantine hotel was tested positive and has just visited a couple of locations all over WA. If you're on TikTok or Instagram or anything like that, you've probably seen the memes of the amount of places he's been in such a short time. He was an Uber driver, but not while he was positive. But, as a precaution, because he has been to a few places, I think it is a really good idea to just, everybody take a step back, put your mask on, stay inside to stop the spread rather than allowing it to escalate to what some other parts of the world are currently going through. So take my hat off to Mr. Marky Marks for taking action quickly. I think we're grateful to be safe and healthy and be fortunate enough where we're in this position where we can take precautions, so we haven't escalated to those situations the rest of the world are in. So super grateful. So yeah, in lockdown for 5 days. You guys know me, super happy, not mad about it. Love being at home with the cats and chilling out. Obviously I'll be working every day from home, but wishing everybody in Perth and anywhere else affected right now, be safe, be smart, guys, follow the rules, and we will get through this. So sending lots of love and wellness safety vibes your way. I have a couple of cool recs for you guys this week. One for some personal stuff for you guys, and then obviously entertainment as promised. This will be a reoccurring thing for you guys. I like to try new things and spread the joy and experiences, and I'm an open book, so if I can try things and they suck or vice versa, I'd rather you hear it from me. So just quickly, I did get a few questions from last week's episode about jealousy, just wanting to touch more about relationships in general, and people had very specific questions around concerns in their relationships. I am more than happy and very open to receiving suggestions from you guys. That's why I have the Facebook group, and that's why I give all of my social media platforms, so you guys can reach out to me anytime you like. So if you want something in particular to be covered, definitely reach out. I'm more than happy to give you guys a helping hand and do an episode. I do have a couple of different episodes already just on some relationship topics, and I'll cover a little bit about that today as well. So I really appreciate you guys reaching out. It means that you're interested and invested and appreciate my point of view, I suppose. So that's definitely why I wanted to create this platform in the first place. So thanks for reaching out, and yes, open to suggestions, so go nuts, guys. So I wanted to give you guys a self-care rec this week. Mine is about cardio. So what I've noticed is I'm not normally someone who does cardio, and obviously this depends on what your goal is in the gym or just for your health and wellness journey in general. But I found that I was doing really well in the weights part of my training. I'm heavily into weights. I think they're awesome. I love them. I love the effects I get from weights physically and mentally and just health wise. But then I noticed, since I moved into a new building for work, we have double flight of stairs, so 2 staircases, and I was out of breath at the top of the stairs a couple of times. So I was like, maybe I'm not that fit cardiovascular wise, so maybe I should start doing some cardio. So I think it's really boring, but what's actually helped me and what I'm recommending you guys to try is I normally watch episodes on my phone when I do my cardio. So I'll go on the treadmill and I'll watch an episode. I tend to find that normally is a bit more interesting than listening to music just for cardio, because you kind of get lost in the episode and you forget that you're even doing cardio. But another thing, which is what I'm recommending, is hill climbs. So I do this in 1 minute increments. So I'll start from 0 incline and 0. Actually, I'll start on like 5 speed and 0 incline. And then every minute they go up on half increments. So after 1 minute, it should be half an incline and 5.5 speed. And the next minute, it'll be 6 speed and 1 incline, and so on. And you just keep going all the way up. I normally go to about 13, 14, depending on the day. But obviously go as high as you can and whatever you're comfortable with. And what I find is it's a little bit more interesting because you're engaged in the workout. You can try and push yourself, and it's not just boring, rather than running for a straight 40 minutes or walking, things like that. Again, this depends on what your goals are, because it is quite high intensity, and it makes me feel good because it's kind of a leg and a booty workout at the same time. So, there's heaps of different things you guys can do for cardio to keep yourselves engaged and not find it boring. Obviously, do some dancing or a class or something, but this is just my personal thing that I've been doing the last month, and I actually do cardio twice a week now. So give it a go, see how far you can get. And I do that for 40 minutes because I watch Keeping Up with the Kardashians, and that's how long the episode goes for. So 40 minutes on the treadmill. Make sure you warm up and stretch before you're doing any kind of high intensity stuff. But yeah, just give it a go and let me know what you guys think. So my entertainment rec for this week for you guys, something I wasn't quite sure if I'd enjoy, but I absolutely loved, was The Queen's Gambit. I know I'm a little bit late on recommending this one because it's been out for quite a while now, but it is on Netflix, and I watched the whole thing in 2 days, as I do with any series that comes out. But I didn't think it would be that interesting just because it's pretty much the basis is centered around chess. But the storyline is quite interesting, I think, because you become very emotionally involved in her personal story. So obviously she was an orphan at a young age, grew up, and what was really interesting is the storyline pulled you in because there was a lot of themes around obviously alcoholism, and just because it was based in the early, I think it was the 50s or 60s, if I'm not mistaken. Chess was like a man's game and females playing was unheard of. So the fact that she becomes quite independent and wealthy from playing chess, she's kind of a genius, I thought it was quite interesting. So you follow kind of her struggles with addiction and independency, and her being a complete genius around chess and just dominating a male dominant game, I suppose. So I thought it was quite interesting. I think if it didn't have those themes as well as the chess, I think it could come across quite boring. But for someone that has no idea how to play chess, you just get so invested in the game, the way that they've filmed it and the way that they show you the games, and you get so interested. It's like the equivalent of watching footy. When you're watching the thing, you get so invested, you're like, oh my god, what move is she going to do next? But I don't even understand the game. So they filmed it in a very clever way where you don't have to understand chess, which I thought was done very in a fantastic way. So definitely recommend The Queen's Gambit, and let me know what you guys think. If you guys have anything that you have loved that you recommend for me, I've pretty much watched everything on Netflix, but I am a sucker for watching things on repeat if they are great. So if you guys have anything you think I would love, hit me up. Alright guys, I am coming to you this week with the episode around relationships, but that feeling of knowing when you should leave and is it okay, and just having your own identity in a relationship and what that means to be on your own and things like that. So this isn't going to be, apart from the obvious reasons to leave a relationship, like, any abuse, mentally, financially, physically, anything like that, definitely, obviously, a sign you should leave. That episode is not going to cover any of that. If you want to hear my own experiences or that experience in general around emotional abuse, I have filmed an episode on my podcast already. It is called Are You Suffering Emotional Abuse? So let's just say the obvious. There are obviously reasons you should leave a relationship, but this is kind of if nothing's really wrong. So obviously cheating falls into that obvious category, but yeah, this will just kind of be that unsettling feeling and a bit more lighter, because I think they're actually harder to leave sometimes than if someone cheats on you, because I think it's, for me personally, I think it's harder to walk away from a relationship where nothing's wrong, right? And that's really what we're going to delve into today. So I want to talk about my own personal experience in this kind of realm, right? I was in a relationship for a very long time, and I think 7 years, and engaged at this point. And I think deep down, or subconsciously, or somewhere in my brain where I didn't want to acknowledge it, kind of just had that settling feeling of, is this it? And this is no reflection of the person I was engaged to, because he was fantastic. But sometimes you can find yourself in these situations where you almost feel like you're settling. And knowing what I know and knowing what I've experienced so far, I don't think that's how you should feel in a relationship. I think no matter how long you're together, you should still kind of feel this alignment or passion, or at least share the same values, so your lives are going in the same direction, right? At least one, if not all of those things, passion being a big one. So I remember, at least for the last maybe 1.5 or 2 years of the relationship, just kind of settling and going, yep, this is it, we're engaged, this is where my life is going. Like, I wasn't unhappy. And this is something really important that I want to talk about, because we never ever fought. So this feeling of there's nothing actually wrong with my relationship, right? There's nothing wrong. Like, we're happy, we're not arguing at all. Like, this, where is this going? So that gut feeling, and it's so important to listen to it, that gut feeling of almost wondering if there's something different, or is this it for me? And because sometimes we feel so secure in those relationships and it is so good, it's almost like we keep pushing that gut feeling down, because you almost feel guilty for having that feeling. Like, why are you wondering if there's something else out there? You have it pretty good, right? And I suppose that in itself is a slap in the face, because it's okay to have those feelings. It's okay to have those thoughts. And you almost, like, your mind pushes those gut feelings down, because it's like, don't be stupid, nothing's wrong. Like, don't fix something that ain't broke. Do you know what I mean? But I think that gut feeling comes to you for a reason. I feel like your subconscious always looks out for you, and it knows what's best for you. And if you're having these thoughts, these unsettling thoughts, and that uneasy feeling, then I really think that there's something else out there for you. And I remember I always used to watch movies, and it's always the same thing in like a rom-com or just a romantic movie in general, that especially with Sex and the City and shows like that, any show really, the girl will be dating a lot and one small thing will happen, and she's always very courageous and confident in her decision to be like, no, I deserve better. Like, I'm going to move on. There's something better than this out there. And they're so, like, even in the long-term relationships on the shows, they're always so quick to just decide and move on, and then things are always better, right? So I always used to sit there and watch the movies and be like, they make it look so easy. This can't be this easy in real life. Like, I'd rather just settle and just be in my little comfort bubble, which is a big thing, the comfort bubble, rather than be scared and take a leap of faith and step into the unknown, which is everything that happens when you leave a secure relationship. So it's obviously good to point that, you know, you do everything you absolutely can to make your relationship work, especially if it's a good relationship and you're with a good person. This episode is not about a therapy session about my relationship or my past relationship, but it's obviously good to note that if you've tried everything you absolutely can and you still have these uneasy feelings, then, you know, it's something to really just trust your gut and trust your instinct with. So yeah, fast forward to, or rewind back to those times. And once I listened to my heart and I listened to my gut, those feelings of uncertainty and those feelings only grew stronger, because I started listening to them. And then, you know, things start falling into place for you, and, you know, you cannot ignore it anymore. Once you stop pushing it down and it comes to the forefront of your mind, it's a lot harder to ignore. This feeling of settling again isn't okay and there is more out there. You know, I often have this thought that you gain something different from each relationship, whether it's a certain life experience, a skill, or a part of you. Maybe they teach you something where you grow as a person and that becomes a part of you, or, you know, whatever it is. Even the negative ones you learn from, right? Each relationship is a lesson. So I think we get so caught up in the fact I think it's fear. We get so attached to these relationships and we are scared to leave because you have that thought of I'm never going to have a relationship like this again. Like, why would I leave something that's good? Like, I'll just settle. I'll stay in my little comfort bubble and my security bubble and just stay here because there's nothing else out there. But how many times have you had that thought? If you looked back on your life and all of your previous relationships, how many times have you had that thought? I remember thinking that in my emotionally abusive relationship. Like, I can't leave. I'm so close with his family. Or, you know, we're so in love. It's like, bitch, no. But I totally understand and I totally acknowledge that it is very, very hard to leave a relationship where nothing is wrong. So when I say wrong, it's like, you know, you don't fight, there's no cheating, there's nothing, right? It's so much harder to leave a relationship where things are really good. But I think it's so important that you feel like yourself, like you feel passion, you feel love, you feel excitement. Those are things that you should feel from your relationship, and not necessarily every day, but majority of the time. And look, I totally get that people are together for such a long time and that kind of fades, but I think, you know, from time to time there should be that joyous feeling of excitement and just love and passion. And, you know, I think it's stupid when people settle and say, oh, you know, we're married now, we've been together for such a long time, you know, it fades and it goes and it won't be the same. It's like, well, no, I think both people just become lazy, and, you know, you should put an effort into your relationship up until the fucking day that you guys die, because, you know, you're both responsible for how your relationship is, for how you both show up in the relationship. We're getting a little bit off topic here, but what I'm trying to say is, if you feel like you've done everything you possibly can up until that point and you still have that gut feeling, just honor it and don't be scared to think to yourself that optimistic mindset of, what can I learn from this experience? What have I gained and am grateful for from this relationship? And people always say, oh, I don't want to leave because, you know, we just get along so well and I love him. It's like, yeah, but the next person you find, you're also going to get along with really well and love them. So holding on to a relationship where you don't feel settled, or you kind of have that gut feeling just because you love them, is you're kind of holding yourself back from what else is out there and what possibilities and opportunities are waiting for you. Because I think to myself all the time, like, I don't know if soulmates are a thing. I don't know if there's only one person for everybody, because I really do think that each person you meet or each person you are in a relationship with can bring something else to your life, something different. And that's why I'm trying to encourage that mindset of, it's okay to move on, it's okay to leave and put yourself out there. And it's fucking scary, like leaving a 7-year relationship where I was engaged and, you know, talking about that next part of my life. It's like scary leaving such big plans and leaving that connection you have with someone and the memories. That shit just doesn't go away, right? Like I said, it's just so important to listen to that gut feeling. And when you finally decide, obviously be prepared for those really tough conversations, because how do you have those really tough conversations when everything's okay? And in some cases, you may be feeling a completely different way to your partner when you bring it up, or maybe you've had this sprung on you before and you were completely blindsided. But some things that are really important to note, whether you're just starting out in a relationship or whether you've been in a really long one and you're having these thoughts or feelings, like I said at the beginning of the relationship, there are a couple of things that should be very strong and prominent in your relationship. And if they're not, maybe you've had small but unnecessary picky fights about them, or you've had these thoughts to yourself internally, but those picky fights and the small internal thoughts grow over time, and then it snowballs and it ends in either you being blindsided or you blindsiding someone else if you're not on the same page. So some things that your relationship should have 100% is on the same page with values. And when I say values, like, do you value the same things like health and wellness or family or, you know, love or respect and honesty, things like that. Like, what are your core values? And I've actually done a whole episode on values in relationships and just in general. It is called Do Opposites Really Attract? So feel free to go and listen to that as well. But what I'm getting at is that something you have in your relationship? If not, one of the biggest reasons I think people separate, and I don't think they know this is what it is, but it's value conflicts. So if you don't share the same values, I believe it'll be really hard to build a life together because you don't value the same things. And when I'm not going to go into too much detail because I've done a whole episode, but if you listen to that, this will make sense. Also, your goals. Do you want the same things in life? Do you respect the same things? If you are a really nice person and you're empathetic and you care about everyone and you just want to help people and you have a career helping people, whatever it is, but your partner is very self-centered or selfish and, you know, the complete opposite to you, is that relationship going to last? You know, do you have passion for each other? Does your partner go out of, if you value love and passion and things like that, is your partner a romantic? You know, so it's either you share the same goals, you're on the same page with values, and are you guys in alignment? It pretty much sums up everything I just said, but alignment is so important in a relationship. So if you don't have at least one of those things and you're just with someone because you have fun and you have hobbies in common and you love them at the time, it's like, is that really enough to prolong a relationship? Is that really enough driving force to keep you guys connected and keep you guys together? Because especially if you're in it for the long run, you know, I don't have children, but I can guarantee that things change completely when another human being is in the picture, you know, a kid. So if you're in that early stages or you're thinking about starting a family, or if you even have a family already and you're having these gut feelings, you know, really listen to your gut, listen to that subconscious, and just know that it is okay to leave and you don't have to settle. I obviously left and I have another partner, and I tell you, when you find someone where they bring that passion back to you and you just feel like your complete self and you can be yourself and you feel alive every day with this person, and you just think to yourself, like, I knew there was something else out there. And you never will experience that until you give yourself a chance. And I say this not just for relationships, but you'll hear me talk about it all the time, that good things come from outside your comfort zone. Growth is a really big value of mine, so I talk about that kind of thing all the time. You have to put yourself in situations where you can gain life experience, and you have to put yourselves in situations where you are uncomfortable, because good things will come from there. And unless you test those boundaries, or you test those, this is for yourself obviously, and you test that comfort and what you're used to, then nothing will come from it. I read this quote the other day and I loved it. It said, "We cannot become what we want by remaining what we are." So imagine if you have already left a so-so relationship and now you're in a great one. Like, imagine if you never experienced what you're currently experiencing with your new partner. Imagine, like, what would have happened if you stayed in that stagnant relationship? Yeah, you'd be secure and you'd be comfortable, but it's like, are you thriving? Are you living with passion every day? Are you excited? Are you so in love that it's disgusting? Like, it just depends. What do you want from your life? What do you want in a relationship? You know, is the person that you're with, are you just with them because it's convenient? You know, and it's too hard to leave, aside from all the really serious topics, and we're talking about light stuff here, but if it's too hard to leave because you're scared, it's not a good enough reason. Like, if I promise you, settling will never make your life what it can be. And if you don't have a great partner by your side, then your life could be really dull. You know, I'm talking about relationships here. Yes, I know people like to be single as well, but that's a completely different topic. But talking about in relationships, if you want that good partner, if you have alignment, if you share goals, if you share values, if you have passion in your relationship, imagine what could be possible for you. And I just want to give you guys the courage and maybe just test and push your mindset boundaries around this. It's okay to have these thoughts, and just make sure you have a plan for yourself. I get it. I've been through this myself. Leaving relationships can be scary, especially if you've been in them for such a long time. What is your identity without that person? Spend a little bit of time by yourself to figure out, what goals do I have as an individual now that we're not on this path together, right? Spend some time growing, spend some time figuring out what you enjoy doing. What are your hobbies? What do you actually want in your life? Spend some time meeting new people, reconnect with friends, reconnect with family, whatever it is. But I think you will feel that sense of alignment for yourself if you just honor those feelings and honor those thoughts that are in your gut that are there. If you honor it, I promise you'll feel so free. And it is upsetting when you leave. Of course, I'm not saying you're going to break up and the next day you're going to be like, fuck, I'm so happy I did that. No. I'm telling you, it's going to be hard. It's going to be very hard. Everything that comes from a breakup. I also did an episode on how to survive a breakup. So if you decide to do this, then go listen to that. But what I'm saying is there's no better feeling than trusting your gut and taking action and stepping outside your comfort zone. Fuck yes, it's scary and it can be upsetting, but your life is what you make of it. And if you don't make these big decisions sooner rather than later, you will waste time and you won't grow or you won't gain experience unless you trust your gut and make changes. So I hope this helps. Sometimes we hear things at the right time when we need to. And I'm not saying make this decision in the next week. It could take you a couple of years. But maybe this piece of information is something that you needed to hear in order to, align with your gut feeling and make that connection and make that decision for yourself. But it's just food for thought. But I'm telling you, there's no better feeling. And just trust your gut. It's like your inner child almost. So really listen to yourself and listen to what you really need. Do a values check for yourself, connect in with yourself, do some journaling, do some meditation, whatever it is. But really just ask yourself, ask that little girl inside, what do we need? What do we need from this? What do we want in life? And I hope that helps, guys. I'm going to wrap up this episode here, but I really hope you've enjoyed this week's episode. I definitely have been wanting to talk about it for a while, but like I said, there's a couple of different episodes that I recommended that kind of tie in with this topic. I will leave what I've suggested in the description, but they are Do Opposites Attract, Are You Being Emotionally Abused, and How to Get Over a Breakup. We'll leave them in the list for you. As always, a little reminder, we have the Facebook group for this podcast. So if you want to connect with me or other girls that listen, you're welcome to join. The link is in the description and you can find all of my social media links on there. I have a YouTube channel, just Jade Delpup, JAYDEDELPUP, the same for Instagram, and you can also find my business page on there. Thank you guys so much for listening. Again, if you have any other recommendations or questions about anything, today's episodes or future questions you might want to ask, or just to connect and say hi, everybody is welcome. I am an open book, so please reach out if you need anything at all. I love you guys so much, and I will see you next week. Bye!